Good morning, this is Bob from the Highway Podcast, and once more, part two, we've got Heiko Grosse. How are you doing, mate?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
Good, yeah. So those that haven't seen Heiko, we did part one, go and check it out, and it'll make a lot more sense, because today we're going to go into more detail about weapons, about books that Heiko's written, and lots more. I think that's right, isn't it, Heiko?
It is, absolutely.
So, welcome. So you've got your coffee.
Yes.
I've got my English tea. So we left off the last one on part one, where we're starting to talk about swords. Actually, I remember you were waving the Angelo broadsword around. Yeah.
I have it right with me again.
And you've got it again. And that's a chap in Scotland called Chris, who at Balefire Blades, who makes them. And we were going on about how good that blade was. Do you want to say any more about it? I mean, you've used it a lot.
I'm not sure if I missed that point in the first video, but I think so. What I did not mention, I think, was the tip of the sword.
Oh yes,
It's normally a little bit swollen. So the prototype was quite thick. It was really swollen.
Okay.
And this was a standard safety Chris makes for many, especially who do side sword and rapier and such things.
Right.
So it's a safety point.
Yeah.
But the effect at the prototype was it was like a little mace, because you had this swollen point, and when you hit with that point, it was had impact. So I said, okay, if you have this swollen point, we don't need it really, but if you make it, then make it not too big, because we are not thrusting so much. We have thrusts, of course, but we are not thrust centric. We are more cut fencing, and then this is more like a little mace hitting you harder than it need to. And but as you can see here, I've cut off the tip completely.
Yeah.
And that is because Chris made a standard length for our swords, which was totally fine. But I decided to cut off a little bit, like, a pinky finger's length or something like that.
Okay.
Because I not because the swollen point or the swollen tip was now distracting my game. It was just this little bit too long. And especially I realized that when working with the Touch. Then this was because the armor class I had was much shorter, so stop like here. And I like to use it with a Touch, because I think with a Touch you fight in a different distance. You fight much closer, you go in and out, and you do many of the draw cuts close to your body against your opponent. And therefore it was a little bit too long for my taste. However, that said, Chris has on his website for the Angelo a lot of possible custom things you can do with this sword. And this is including the sword lengths. So I think he has like standard lengths, then a little bit shorter and a little bit longer. So if you are unsure what length is right for yourself, then you can just order the standard lengths. I mean, if you are a really big guy, I'm 186 centimeters. So if you like 195, or I don't know what it is in English. In the metric
I'm trying
system,
to work it out
when you're
now.
going when you're going closer to 2 meters or whatnot, then you probably want to have the longer one. But if you have average body height, you can use the middle one. And if you realize, oh, it's a little bit too long for my taste, then you can cut off a little bit. And I think the swollen, if you want to have now more thrust safety, this one is still, as maybe we can see, this still rounded. It's still round enough. And my father cut that off for me and made it round and grinded it. And but if you want to, then you can use such a rubber tip. There are this rubber blunts you can use for rapiers, and they fit perfectly on this now. So if you say, I want to have more thrust, I want to have the blade shorter. So yeah, this was the only thing I wanted to say. So otherwise, it's a perfect sword. Another thing I did, I showed this in one video, which is only available on Patreon for the moment. I also made my own liner with leather. Yeah,
that's really nice.
Chris offers them made from felt.
Oh, okay.
But I think leather is a little bit better, also for some protection if some thrust is landing here. But I think he also offers, because Alicia, his partner, is doing all the leather sheets, and she makes very nice leather work. So I'm quite sure you can also have a leather liner if you ask for one. And what I did, I roughly wrapped the grip myself with some leather I had, but it's not finished. It was just for testing. I mean, it works quite well, but I have.
What was on there originally?
Originally, you have. I can show this on my small sword because the spare grip Chris sent me with the Angelo basket. Normally, you have this. It's like the Black Fencer. So this idea we took from Black Fencer because I said, okay, you can save a little bit of money if you don't take leather. And leather can have, especially with training gloves, sometimes it can have the tendency to be too smooth. So you have a slippery grip.
Slips,
And I realized I liked about the Black Fencer synthetic training swords. I really liked the wrapping they had on the grip. So standard is this, and it's really good. I only put around the leather because I wanted to have the grip a little bit thicker for my hand.
Okay.
There's a lot of possibility to customize the Angelo with the help of Chris, or you can also customize it quite easily in the aftermath if you have someone who can do this, or if you are able yourself.
Yeah. So all in all, it's quite a versatile piece of kit, isn't it? And it's obviously, it's had some action now, hasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. But as you can see, these are all only scratches.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the basket hilt is darkened with some oil. This is from the hardening process. So when you get it, you will have dirty fingers. So you have to clean it off with a little bit of fabric.
Yeah.
And but you can see what is more important than some scratches is that the structure will hold, especially the ears here, which sometimes called parry rings or quillons.
Quillons,
And also important because this front plate is so solid, there will nothing happen. But here on the back, you want to have this part that you can get not any dents or bends here. And this can happen because we of course see this on historical swords as well. We see broken basket hilts, and we see dented basket hilts. When we were in Solingen and had a sword handling session with originals, in the Blade Museum, there was one basket hilt, and I mean it was a brass basket hilt, a quite thick one. But of course, it was bended from all sides. So you could, if you had a big hand, you could not put your hand in anymore because it was so
badly
dented.
Sort of crushed.
Yeah. But the structure was still there. It was still intact. Nothing was broken. So I think that this is the most important. And I think for a training sword, as I said in the first part of our interview, I said that you want to have a training sword which lasts long and can take a beating.
Yeah.
And recently someone said, I like the Angelo, but to be honest, it looks ugly compared to others. And I said, do you think so? Ugly?
I don't think it does.
I mean, he said, okay, if you compare it to some nice made armor class decorative, but I said, that was not the point. The point about this sword was always to be practical, like a military sword. Nothing pretty about it. I have to say, personally, I love ugly swords, so to speak. I want to have them robust. I don't want to have them pretty. I want to have them robust. Personally, I like the design. I think it has aesthetics. And if you see the original, which was one of the inspirations for the basket, there were like two different inspirations, main inspirations. Of course, this has, I think, some holes here and some holes here.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more decorated here. but I mean, it's a training sword. For what do you need decoration?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. It's okay. The guy said he likes the sword very much and it looks robust, but he thinks it's not so beautiful compared to other swords. And I said, yeah, but that was exactly what we wanted. And in my opinion, I think it's just a beautiful sword, because I know with this one, I will have a long time of fun.
Mm.
And this is the most important thing when you buy a training sword, that you don't want to have to get it repaired after 1 year of use, or that you have a broken basket hilt or whatnot. So the quality of this in durability and also in balance and weight, in my opinion, this is the best training sword I ever had in my hands. Well, and I'm really proud and happy and feel honored that Chris gave me the chance to create it with him together. So this was really a great honor for me. And I force no one in my group to buy this, like this is our official school sword. But I would say I can highly recommend it to everyone who wants to have a robust sword.
Well, there's a friend of mine down in Dorset who's wants to start doing broadsword as well, and he's already contacted Chris to order one. So, and I haven't even handled it yet, but obviously based on what you'd said in your review and what other people were saying about it, and of course having seen it as well now, I'm so glad that, and I don't mind waiting for it either, you know, because it looks robust. I don't think it looks ugly at all. I think it's a practical piece of kit that you're going to get years and years of service out of. I mean, I've got an armor class, and actually, I don't want to damage it. It's too, you know, it's so pretty. You know what I mean? You just think I don't want to damage it.
Yeah.
You know, so it just makes absolute sense to have something that's workmanlike.
Yeah.
And again, as you said, I think it's quite beautiful. I like the fact it's rugged.
Yeah.
It looks like it's designed to do the business.
Yeah.
You know?
And I have to say, I did not fight yet. I had test bouts with a prototype against armor class sword.
Yeah.
Where I told you that the problem is the armor class blade was too floppy. So every time I tried to parry, it was the structure was broken of the parry.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to take this to an event and use it against the swords of other ones. But I have to say, my greatest fear so far, or I had the feeling when I go to an event and fight with this against another guy, and that one has an armor class or something else, I had a little bit of the feeling that I like bringing a knuckle duster to a boxing match. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
So I would be afraid, not with all swords, because I tested this against, last weekend we had the sparring. We tested this already against the Castile sword. And this is it was their so-called basic, the cheapest one they have, the basic one. It has only a knuckle bow and 2 side bows and a blade up here. Okay. The blade is getting quite narrow, so it's a little bit more like a balloon sword or like a spadroon. And I was a little bit afraid that this might cause damage, but I was surprised because the Castile sword makes also a quite solid practical impression. So for us in Europe, it's not so interesting maybe because the shipping costs from the USA. And it goes the other way around. Many people say, yeah, the Angelo looks good, but the shipping costs from UK to the USA or to Canada are like hell. So they are happy to order Castile, but it made a good impression too. I was a little bit surprised how narrow the blade was towards the point, nearly small sword like, or at least like a spadroon. Yeah. And the other sword I had a bout with against, there I was really afraid to damage the beautiful basket hilt. But it was robuster than I think, but I forget, was it Darkwood Armory? I'm not sure, I don't know. But it was also quite a nice sword. But there I was afraid that this might cause damage to the weapon, but it didn't. So yeah, but still, this gives me a good feeling. You know, it gives you confidence. It's like, okay, my hand is well protected. I don't have to fear my hand my hand, and I have a good solid blade, and I don't have to fight like I am afraid that I broke my beautiful expensive sword. Now this is something to. It's a weapon of war. It's a tool. So,
yeah, it's workmanlike.
I really like it. Yeah.
You've started working with small swords as well, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So did you just show me a sword a second ago with the new grip on? So did you put that together yourself, or where did the blade come from? And
partly. So we started small sword. I thought it was last year, but actually it's 2 years ago. We started,
okay.
But just for fun, because I found some stage combat shop,
right,
who were having like I think they were closing, so I have like a sale,
yeah.
And there we were picking up some theater épées and foils, which were already built a little bit more historical because they were meant for stage fighting. And the blades they had were, partly they were rubbish, they were bending and not bending back, and partly they were quite good because they were stiff. And this one is one of those blades we still have. So this has a good structure. And after just playing around with it in sparring, we decided to start working a little bit more in training, because I think for broadsword fencers, even if you don't like the small sword as a weapon so much, I think it's a good way to train edge alignment, thrust control, and also engaging and disengaging. So working a little bit more from your wrist, and therefore it's a good tool. But we started to like the small sword very much as part of the manuals we are using already. And here, this is the épée blade. Then this is a grip I had from Chris, as I said. The pommel is just a standard manual foil or épée pommel we had from that sorts. The figure 8, guard here. This is something a friend of mine in Germany made, and he made it to make historical. He made it to assemble for his. He has a fencing group. They do German saber fencing. Interestingly, I'm a research member of their club, because the fencing master Christmann, he lived and taught for a while in my hometown, and his fencing manual was published here in 1838. So Marcus, who is a friend of mine, and he asked me if I want to do some research for them in the archives of the city, and I found a lot of material about Christmann, and so I became a research member. So this is more. We already had a seminar with him, but this is more a theoretical project of mine. Being a research member, and he made these kind of guards. I think some metal worker makes them for him. They only like €8 or something, or 10 euros, and they're really nice, because they are much better than when you buy a cheap foil to start small sword fencing, which is good. You take a foil grip and a foil pommel, and you take an épée blade, because they have more mass and they are stiffer than regular foil blades. And instead of using the aluminium disc-like guard they have, you buy such one of these. And then it looks more historical, but it has also better feeling, because this is solid metal. This has a better balance.
Quite strong.
It is. I put some leather here, and I had some, I don't know what it is. It was something from what my father had in his basement. Some kind of metal or aluminium. So this is now protected here, thrust protected. And the knuckle guard here, which is very nice. This is from my Queton small sword.
Okay.
So I assembled this on this one. Because the Queton has a stiffer and longer blade, which I like. And it has a very big figure 8 guard. has a very solid and heavy pommel and a small flat leather covered grip.
Yeah.
And I did some, some exchange business with my brother. So he has now parts of the Quetun small sword.
Right.
And I assembled this one because I wanted to have something which is a little bit more nimble and a little bit more narrow. And now I feel we try it out. I mean, the good thing is when you have different parts, they all fit together. All these foils and épées, you can switch blades, you can switch guards, you can, with a little bit of craftsmanship, you can change everything. Yeah. And if you don't like it after sparring, you put it together again in the old way. Yeah. Yes. Now I made, for me, a small sword, because what happened quite often with this very big, the Quetun guard is much bigger than this one from diameter. And what happened quite often was when I parried, the blade of the opponent was stuck here.
Oh,
and it was
okay.
like parry daggers. And if I was good, I could do some, controlling. Yeah. But most of the time, it was distracting myself.
Right.
Yeah. So, I had him here like with a forklift, and I don't know what I have to do now. So, but with a smaller guard, that's not an issue anymore.
No, that's a nice sword. That's a really nice sword. And
it's simple for training purposes, but I like it now. Yeah.
So it's got to improve your broadsword working with other weapons, hasn't it? Playing around with other weapons. Yeah. I mean, I'm used to, obviously, it's only recently that I've started getting involved with European weapons, but I know that having used Thai swords, Japanese swords, Filipino weapons, that one adds to the other, doesn't it, in terms of your repertoire?
Absolutely.
So this is what I find fascinating about working with edge weapons, particularly. You can move quite easily, I think. Once you've got the skill set, you've learned the footwork and the movement, that you can move from one system to another quite easily, which is what I love about weapons. It made me wonder why I didn't get into the broadsword earlier, or the European weapons earlier, because when I picked up the broadsword for the first time, which is about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I was like, oh, I feel really comfortable with this, and I guess all those years of waving sticks and knives and Japanese swords and the Thai weapons, the darb, because the darb is Krabi Krabong is a great little system, standalone system, and a bit like the European martial arts. It's not too fancy at all. It's made for what it's meant to be, fighting on the battlefield, and having the ability to use two swords makes the dirk and the broadsword so much easier for me. I love it. I know I'm not supposed to be doing that stuff, but I've had right from the beginning. I've had Chris's manual, and I also bought the small one, the little book, which is great because I just stick that in my sword bag. And I can and it's just there in the gym, so I can use it to refer back to. So, because I can see behind you, you've got 3 books, and I know for a fact the one in the middle's absolutely yours, isn't it? And you wrote the German edition of the Highland broadsword as well, didn't you?
Right. So you just showed Chris's
book, which I highly recommend.
Me too. This is really Chris had various editions of the old Broadsword Academy book, but this now is the most definite guide, not only to our system, but you have everything you need from nearly every source from Highland broadsword. So I highly recommend. Even if you don't train in the Cateran Society system, you just want to train Highland broadsword, I can really highly recommend it. So switching over to this one.
Let's get that. That's it.
This was my first book. As I said before when we were talking already, I got this to a publishing house. So this is their standard front cover for their books, because they translated, for example, Christian Tobler's longsword book. They had a translation of it, and I think Mark Donnelly from the USA, he also they also translated some of his books about, I think, medieval furniture about medieval siege weapons or something like that.
Okay.
So this was their standard cover, and the publisher said normally he's more into medieval stuff, but he found the expose I was sending him. He found it so entertaining and interesting that he said he wanted to do this as his next book project. And he said, okay, the photos we made were not very good. So what he did, I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, I can.
He
So,
was asking his sketch artist,
it's very good.
Was taking all the photos and putting them into sketches.
That's great.
And then I gave him also some historical pictures.
Yeah.
Like here from the Penny Quick sketches.
Yeah.
Which I said he should make them also as pictures. So the book now has quite a little bit the look of an old fencing manual with these a little bit more rough sketches. So you have to go through the text. And the idea here was to make a German entry into all this. So of course now this was published in 2014, I think.
Okay.
So 6 years later, I do some things differently. I know some things better than I did then. So maybe in future I will write a second edition. And some people even asked for an English translation, but I think in English language we already have a lot of very good books about the Highland broadsword. And there's no need for another one, which is just repeating what others say. So I think I will, maybe in some years I will make a new edition, but in German. So this was my first book project. And that opened a lot of doors also into writing for magazines. So because I already wrote some articles on military saber, on Highland broadsword, Battle of Killiecrankie, and last year about the two-handed Scottish greatsword, and about the Galloglass. I also wrote an article about the Galloglass for historical kind of a medieval magazine, and they have one issue a year where they focus on, it's called Carfunkel Combat. They focus on all things which have to do with military history.
Right. Okay.
So this opened a lot of doors. And then later, this one, I think?
Yes, yeah.
This was, for this book project, Chris Thompson approached me and asked me if I want to take part in this. This is a project of 4 authors. Chris Thompson, who wrote most of it, then myself, and also Ken Frenger, who unfortunately died some years ago before this book was published. So it's dedicated to him. He wrote a chapter about the Galloglass Spartak. And Randall Gustidis, he had a part in the two-handed sword, especially about the flourish. So he was creating like flourishes like you have with a mutante, like this place with a mutante. He created some flourishes for the Scottish two-handed sword.
Yeah.
So this is a co-author project. Storms of Death, the fighting skills of the medieval Gaelic warriors. So for those who don't know it, it's a little bit on the experimental side. It has a great theory behind it, but everything we do inside with the weapons, like here with a one-handed sword and the shield or buckler, everything we do here is of course experimental. So it's educated guess. It's not. We have source material. We have a lot of quotes from battlefield reports and everything to support our theories. But of course, what we then finally do in the end has some aspect of speculation still. So here's Ken's material with the Galloglass axe, which was one of his major projects. So he was very good with the Galloglass Sparta axe, and he was also very good with Mendoza's pugilism. And he was also a pioneer researching the Irish stick fighting with the shillelagh. So this was our co-author project, which we got into Fallen Rooks Publishing House in Scotland.
Yeah.
From Keith Farrell, who offers a lot of great books on the topic, especially the reprints of some of the historical manuals. I think they were the first ones who were reprinting McBain.
Yeah, Keith Farrell's. I mean, I've read most of his stuff now, and he's got a really good blog as well, hasn't he? And a website.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to at some point do some lessons with him. You know, he seems like a really good guy.
Yeah.
And he's not far from me. You know, only a few hours really.
Yeah.
For me. And once the old lockdown restrictions are finished and people, you know, when this is all over.
Yeah.
I've picked possibly the worst time to start, because I can't fence with anybody, you know. But
then again, on the other hand, it will get much easier in future, probably. Yeah.
Well, the good thing I was saying to my guys, and this is for the Thai boxing and the other weapons that I teach, I said, but now this is a great time to practice, you know, your footwork and all the basics, the fundamentals, and that's what when I joined the Catalan Society. And the first thing I did, I just walked. I mean, yes, I wanted to wave a sword around, but I thought, well, this footwork is slightly different to what I'm used to. I need to practice that up and down and up and down. I was brought up with the old school ideas of martial arts where you did what your teacher taught you. And my teacher made me walk, just walking up and down in guard for 3 days. So 6 hours a day, just up and down, up and down. And it works. That system works, you know, because once you've established the footwork, everything else starts to come together, doesn't it? It makes sense. Yeah. And you know, people want to pick things up and start waving them around and fighting, but actually, it's if you if you spend a few months just getting the basics in there, you know, don't go past the first, you know, the first few pages. Forget the rest of the book for a while.
Yeah.
But having said that, of course, once you get into it, it becomes well, it certainly has for me a bit of an obsession.
That's good. Obsession in a good way.
Yeah, of course.
Obsession in a good way is passion.
Oh yeah, and I think this brings us round to what we were talking about. We started to talk about, you know, the martial arts in terms of character building and about where do we put the ego with regard to training and competition specifically. I mean, I know you've got some views on character and you wanted to talk about that. I think this is probably a good time to start. So when you talk about character building, using obviously, you know, sword as the tool, what do you mean by that? Let's get some sort of idea of what you mean by that.
Though I think it mainly the background for this thinking about character building is, of course, my extensive background in Japanese martial arts.
Yeah.
Because Japanese martial arts, the building of character is a key principle, but they don't, at least from my experience, they don't have any talk about it like, okay, now we are building your character. No, it just happens with everything they do. It starts with Reiho, the attitude, the school, the etiquettes in the dojo. You come into, for example, you come into a dojo, and even if it's an old, dirty motor hall, you know, smelling from diesel and whatnot, and with the oily ground, you get inside and you bow. You show your respect. Yeah? You bow to each other. You bow to your teacher. You have these, in Kendo, you have Seiza, these short meditation, which is not really like a meditation, but it's a short preparation. And you have to sit in this uncomfortable Japanese kneeling, you know, you have to get used to it. So already with this, you learn discipline.
Yeah.
And with this, you learn respect. And with that, automatically, your character is building. So I think martial arts in general, they are no guarantee. I mean, you can. I'm just watching the Cobra Kai Netflix series, And I mean, in deep inside, and the show is great because it's much better than this little, you know, pseudo-romantic bad martial arts sequence Karate Kid movies, but we all loved them because of Mr. Miyagi, and because we could relate to that stories, being young guys being bullied in school maybe or whatnot, and we all wanted to, you know, learn tricks. But the show itself is much more about, it's not all black and white, it's all gray. So Johnny Lawrence, the villain from the old movies, now he is not really the hero, he's more like an anti-hero, but you can see where he comes from. And even his old teacher is not that evil guy. I don't want to do any spoilers for now, but you see that complete show is not, it's about character building. It's about character building, getting a better person, fighting your demons, your own demons within, with the help of karate. So all this happen outside. For the discipline is important to build the character inside. And I think this is something which we have especially in the Japanese Budo disciplines, but I think also in Chinese martial arts and in other, it's already maybe part of the daily philosophy, especially in Asia and especially in Japan, where it is not only part of martial arts, but also part of the regular society and all-day behavior. And I think in European martial arts, we still have to learn about that. We have it a little bit. We have it also depending on the teacher. If the teacher is an inspiration for his students, they will already follow his example quite naturally. But I don't think that we have yet put it into HEMA, that it is a natural part of the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the moment, it's just a coincidence. It happens depending on the teacher, depending on the student, but it's not part of HEMA as a system. Not yet. And I try in my group to change that a bit, because I have this background of 10 years. I knew how it worked in Kendo and why it worked, but now I have to find ways how it can work in HEMA too. And of course, I started my own group to see how we can get there, but it's difficult.
Yeah. I mean, do you find it's working? I mean, you know, from my perspective, having done martial arts all my life, etiquette always went hand in hand with the training. It was part of it. You know, when I started in karate, you had to respect the dojo, you had to respect the seniors, and it wasn't never a big ego thing. You know, I never came across, in my experience, I never came across an instructor who taught me who had a big ego and wanted you to bow to him, and he never felt like you were beneath him. You know, we were equal, but he was my teacher, therefore I would show him respect. And I think it's important, you know, that you have, you know, the salutations for one thing. And I know that, you know, whenever I practice with the broadsword, I don't have to do the salutation. Nobody's there. But it's like to show respect to the art and the weapon. So, for example, I meditate, and I was taught in a Zen tradition. So I bow to the cushion. You know, I mean, I'm not even in a temple, but you just bow to the cushion because it's going to provide you with the ability to sit. And I think, you know, when students come into a gym, a sale, or whatever it is, there should be some sort of formality, shouldn't there?
Absolutely.
Now, I've not been involved in the HEMA community really, so I've not seen what goes on.
I mean, I already experienced this kind of you know, respecting the teacher as a leader. So I saw this kind of structure already in some clubs, especially in Italy and in Spain. The thing is, HEMA has a big advantage. Everyone can, you know, download a source he likes as a PDF from the internet, grab some training gear, grab some buddies, go into the backyard and start training. And this is great. This is great. You cannot do this with most of other martial arts because everyone will think you are nuts. I mean, people say you cannot learn a martial art from a book or from videos, but HEMA people do it all the time because
All the
we
time,
don't have,
yeah.
we cannot do it differently. We don't have living masters,
No.
okay? So I think that is a good thing. That is an advantage of HEMA because it's quite open to evolve yourself. There are no limits, so to speak. For example, in my Kendo time, as I told you in the last video, I wanted to do Nito Kendo, but they said, no, you don't have, you know, the third dan or the fourth dan. You have to train this first and that first. And I was like, yeah, but I want to do this now. I mean, you know, I'm good with it, and I have one guy who can show it to me. But you know, that sometimes is putting you a little bit into a cage.
Yeah.
In traditional martial arts. So you are in HEMA much more free to express. And I think that also is part of the spirit, most of the HEMA community. Most of the people in HEMA community, and I respect that because I can understand where it comes from. Most of them are very democratic. They don't like a hierarchy very much. So some are already a little bit, you know, picky about titles like maestro or master or something like that. So and I mean, you will never have in a Kendo seminar where you have some guy from Belgium or from Japan who is telling you something about how to strike your men correctly. And he's giving a workshop or he gives a seminar, and everybody will stand and listen and try what he is telling you. And in the HEMA community, you stand there and you're explaining something, and don't get me wrong, it doesn't happen quite often, but sometimes it happens that someone is standing there and you're telling them this or that, and they will not raise their hand for a question, but they will just criticize you in front of others. They will just like, yeah, but do you think it's the right interpretation? You know, this will never happen in Kendo. If it happens one time, you're out of the hall.
No.
And of course, on the one hand, it's good to have in HEMA this open mind setting to say, okay, he does it like this, looks interesting, but I understand the source differently. And because I'm just a regular guy picking up some historical sources, it's totally okay because I don't have like 40 years of HEMA as my background. So of course one can criticize me, but it's not very respectful to do it in front of everyone else.
Yeah.
You can, and this is something I think HEMA has to learn because it's about good manners. It's about behaving in public a little bit more decent. And I think that is something, and maybe some people will hate me for saying that, but this is my experience after having 10 years of Kendo, doing different martial arts, training with different martial artists. And it's not only true for Japanese martial arts, also true for the Dog Brothers. Dog Brothers are wild fighters, but they are very respectful to each other. They are very respectful to their teachers. And they are very respectful even to other martial artists who come as guests. So they will never look down on you because they are these tough guys. They are they are interested. They want to pick your brains. They want to know what you are doing. So, and they are open to share. And in HEMA, sometimes this kind of adequate social behavior is missing. Not by everyone, of course not. But there are some people, instructors and students, where you say, didn't your mother taught you different? You know what I mean? Like, well, you cannot behave like that in public. You can think yourself. But there's a guy coming from Australia all the way on his own costs, or maybe just covering his ticket, and you're standing in a workshop, taking part, and after 10 minutes, you just turn around and attend the other workshop. Those things happened. This is so disrespectful. I hate such behavior. This is a moment where I wish I would be in my Kendo world because no one would dare to do this more than one time. They would throw him out. Yeah.
It sounds disrespectful. Yeah, it sounds in Muay Thai. I did Japanese martial arts, obviously, like yourself, and the structure is very rigid, as you say. And nobody criticizes the master. No matter how bad it is, you never criticize him. You just get on with it because of the lineage. You know, he's above me. He's a 7th Dan. I'm a 3rd Dan. whatever he says is the law, and I can't disrespect, I can't criticize it. In Muay Thai, it's very different because all the teachers I've met are simply running a camp that has to make money by having their fighters win every week. There is a hierarchy. Yes, we do listen to the teacher, but when the fighters fight, they don't try and kill each other. They hate this idea of the ego. And when they meet other fighters, there's total respect for each other. You know, they'll have a real hard battle, but at the end of it, they'll go for a drink.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and everybody, the wonderful thing about Muay Thai is, and I know this is not about Muay Thai, but the idea is that we all train in a very similar way with similar principles, but can often come to a different conclusion, which is a bit like the interpretation of the treatises, isn't it?
Yes.
And if something works and we find it works, we've probably got the right interpretation, haven't we? It's like, you know, all the treatises that I've been reading, they'll all say slightly different things based on, I guess, the guy's experience of fighting. You know, McBain, Sinclair, Hope, Taylor, Raworth. You know, they're all saying more or less the same thing. You know, you can only wave a sword in so many directions, you know, and thrust it in so many different ways. And I think it's the individual that makes it come alive. You know, you know, the fundamental principles are the key thing. And one of the fundamental principles, I guess, is what you're saying is about mutual respect.
Yes, right. That's and I think if someone behaves like this in a workshop, you know, there are two workshops at the same time. He decides, okay, I'm doing whatever backsword with this guy or rapier with that guy.
Yeah.
And after 5 or 10 minutes, he realizes, oh, this is not really what I expected. This is not that fun I thought. I'm just turning around and going to the other workshop. This is so disrespectful. You don't do that. You don't do that. I mean, of course, you could say, yeah, but I don't like it. And I paid money and I like it over there. This looks more fun. I said, yeah, but you decided to take part. And this is where I have the feeling this is something they did not learn at home. You know, because you teach children different. You said, yeah, okay, you decided now to order that kind of schnitzel or that kind of schnitzel. And now you're eating it. You don't like it, okay, do the onions to the side and eat it without the onions, something like that. But you cannot say like, oh, I don't like it, throw it away and order something new. You know, I don't, it costs money. Somewhere in the world, children are starving and you would throw it away. And this is the same thing, or a similar thing. Like, you're disrespecting the guy who's staying there and doing something. Of course, you don't have to like it. You can say, that was not really my kind of thing. Yeah. I would do it differently, or I expected something different. That's totally okay. So what? It happens. And this is something I only experienced no other martial arts than HEMA. And again, I have to say, it's not regular behavior.
No.
It just happened. And it happened more than one time. So most of the people in HEMA are decent persons, are respectful persons. Many of them have a background in other martial arts. So you see they have a different attitude. Yeah. But many of the newer students coming into a club and never did any martial art before, they're only learning HEMA and they are missing that part. And this is the point where I say, okay, but it's not the problem of the student who is coming. You have to have a martial art that sort out those people who cannot change their character, so they will leave. So for example, if you have a Kendo class and you do like a workshop and 20 people come, and of these 20 people, maybe 8 will join the club, and of these 8 people, 5 will come regular and 3 will really become good Kendoka in the future. So in HEMA, we don't need the masses, so we can also pick. And I had people who did test training with me, and I already realized during that first 1.5 or 2 hours that they will not fit into the group. They have a very narrow-minded behavior, and they already were disrespectful in their behavior. And those people I told, no, sorry, you cannot come again.
Yeah.
They don't understand, but I don't care. Because I have a small group, and this is fun for me as a trainer, and I can pick the people I want to have in my group. So I already was throwing someone out who was behaving quite disrespectful when we had an event, and I was talking to him about it, and he did see it differently, and I said, okay, if you don't apologize, you cannot come anymore. And this is something I learned in Kendo, because in Kendo, the president of the Hessian Kendo Federation was very often, he was the highest ranking one of the highest ranking in Germany and the highest ranking in Hessen, and he often did practice with us, and every of the local instructors was respecting. He's there, he's giving the training. That's the hierarchy. One time there was an absolute beginner, and they were doing footwork, and he was arguing and discussing or trying to discuss all the time. And I mean, you have a lot of people attending such a training, and you have, changing partners, and you have everything to have in order and whatnot. And then the president was saying, okay, out. And he said, oh, but I'm paying for training, and I'm you are the teacher, you have to show me. And he said, I'm doing like 40 years of Kendo. You are totally new. You don't have to discuss with me. And you tried it 2 or 3 times. I gave you a chance. Now out. Yeah. And he didn't care if this guy will never come back or complain. But this is, he told us once, he said, there is no democracy in Kendo. No. If you are in the locker room and changing, you are giving up your civil rights, so to speak.
Can it
sounds hard, but it is.
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, I've had the same thing teaching Muay Thai. I get students every now and again. I'll get a 19-year-old guy who actually knows more about Muay Thai than I do. And why are you on the beginner's course if you know so much? And they argue and argue, and you try to explain things and be democratic and be nice. But eventually, you're right. You just have to turn around and say, son, I've been doing this for 40 years. If you don't like what I'm doing, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it's can I just say something as well?
Of course.
The sound went a bit funny. I don't know whether the microphone is catching on something. Maybe.
Wait a moment.
Yeah, I noticed it about 10 minutes ago, and it just now and again it keeps catching. I mean, can you hear me? Yeah. Just move. Okay. Keep talking and move around a bit.
Hello, I'm from Germany.
Hey, it's Heiko, the moving man. Sorry, Heiko. It's just I want people to be able to hear what you're saying, and I'm not, I don't mean to be rude and interrupt you, but it was starting. I was starting to. Oh my God, no. I want people to hear this, and I'm sure you do as well. So. Obviously, you've made your views quite clear, and it's quite nice because it's exactly what I think. And I've been doing martial arts all my life, and I think you have to find a balance, don't you, with discipline and training. There's got to be a nice balance. And I mean, if I was teaching, for example, if I was teaching broadsword in a class, I would have them do a salute. I would make sure that they respected the training area, that things were clean. Because the other thing about being respectful to your partner and the place you train is it makes it a safer environment. Because obviously when you're working with edged weapons, safety is even more of a priority, isn't it?
Yeah. You have to respect your partner, and you have to respect the weapon, and you have to respect yourself. And I think attitude or etiquette and this kind of all the salute and what you need, the rituals to have a good structure in during a training class and have a safe structure. That's the one thing. The other thing, of course, is building every individual character, and this is, I think, similar in every martial art, because ego is the biggest enemy. For instructors and students alike. And I mean, the instructor has the advantage if he's doing this for a longer time and he learned from his lessons from the past, then he might have found ways to fight his own ego. Of course, we have those instructors who their ego is just growing because they never. And I think the good thing is if you are on your path as a fighter and you fall on your face a couple of times, and you stand up again and dust off and you see, okay, this was my mistake. I did something wrong. That when you can admit that you were wrong, and I did the experience a couple of times during my complete martial arts career, not only in HEMA but also in HEMA. I did a lot of mistakes on the road, but I learned from them. This is important. And as an instructor, you have to try to do the same with your students, to teach them from your experience and say, yeah, I understand. So if someone's ego is boasting because he's losing a fight, and I mean, everyone, this is a funny thing, we are all humans, right? And ego is always a problem, and especially guys have the problem with every guy thinks he can fight, or most guys think they can fight. And I realize when, as a martial artist, you meet someone who doesn't do martial art, the one thing is they might make you bigger than you are, then like, yeah, you're a fighter, oh no, don't hurt me. Or other guys try to make you smaller, like, yeah, I also did martial arts for a long time. Oh yeah, what did you do? Yeah, I did judo when I was a kid for 1.5 years. It's like, this is just ego speaking. It's just ego speaking. And we all know in a real fight, no matter if you are in the ring with a Muay Thai or boxing match, no matter if you pick up a sword and have a sparring or a tournament in HEMA, or if you are in any kind of dangerous self-defense situation, ego will likely kill you. Of course, not in a boxing ring, hopefully, but you know what I mean. Ego will destroy you. We all saw when a fighter gets too cocky and he's knocked out and it looks just stupid. I mean, we all enjoyed seeing Anderson Silva in the UFC with his great godlike striking, and it was cool when he was just waving with his head, and we saw this with Muhammad Ali and all these, Conor McGregor, all the cocky fighters. But the moment you get punched in the face and you are knocked out, you just look stupid because your ego was boasting so much. But even then, it's okay if a fighter can learn from it. I mean, Anderson Silva learned from it and said, yeah, I'm honest, I was too cocky. I was too cocky. I was thinking I can play this game with every fighter, and then there comes a fighter who doesn't play this game and I'm knocked out. And I think this is very important for teachers or for instructors to teach their students, that they learn from their mistakes. And so it helps them to defend their own ego, because ego is always in the way. And this is especially with weapons, one thing which is can get dangerous. So for example, you realize from the outside in sparring, they are fencing, they are doing everything properly. One gets hit, and he's not only angry because he was hit at the same spot for the third time, also this time it hurt. This time it hurts, and it hurts his ego. It hurts his body and it hurts his ego. And then you see they start striking harder and wilder. And that's the moment you have to step in with understanding, but also with discipline. You have to show them, this is not correct. This is not okay. You can't do this. Keep your shit in order. But on the other hand, tell them you understand. I understand where you are. I did the same thing. I know when I had in my Kendo time a very, I was getting better and better from tournament to tournament. And it was, was winning first place, second place in my division. I was quite proud of what I achieved and I was feeling good. And then the next tournament, a quite new guy who was training with me, I think we were in semifinals or something like that. He won against me. And I was so angry with him, with myself. I had to went out of the gym to don't lose my shit. But this was a hard lesson, because I said, I was maybe overconfident. Maybe he was just better that time. But the most important thing I learned is your ego was in the way. My ego was in the way, especially in the aftermath, because I was so angry with myself and angry about the fight. And then I was angry with myself because I was so angry, because you want to, be quite cool about it and, oh, no problem, you did very good, and so on and so on. And this is something this is something I had to learn quite often during my time as a martial artist in many ways, where the ego comes in the way. Yeah, and I also met people where I realized, okay, this guy has only problems with his ego. It's not me; it's his problem. It's his ego which is in the way.
And the thing is, you don't want to be taking. It's like having a third adversary in a fight, isn't it? It's like there's the opponent, and then there's this ego. You know, it's like you're fighting a battle that you can't possibly win because you've got two things to fight against. And I say this to all my fighters: just enjoy the fight, no matter what the outcome. Just enjoy it. Yeah. And what I've found is my fighters are the most successful fighters I've got are the ones who really have understood what I've been speaking about in terms of the ego. And they go in and enjoy the fight. I actually tell my guys, go and meet your opponent, go and have a chat with him. You know, and sometimes they'll come back and they say, oh, he didn't want to speak to me, he turned away. I said, oh, good, we've already won the fight. Yeah. Because his ego is going to do him a disservice. And of course, invariably, the guys come out like, you know, like, I'm going to kill you. No, you're not going to kill each other. You know, it's not about that. And what my guys have always said is they always learn more when they've lost a fight than they do when they win. Because when they win a fight, I just leave them alone. I say, that's great. You've done really well. Fantastic. Let's carry on. The guys who've lost a fight, we have a look. We have to, why did you lose? What was going on there? So it's a win-win for them, the way they see it. And, you know, we have a saying in all contact sports, particularly in the ring, you know, just getting in the ring is the hardest thing, you know. You know, you've got all of these people in the audience telling you how to fight, but you're the one in there, you know. And I think most people don't do it. I mean, most people don't want to step into a ring and get kicked and punched and what really hard. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't know why we do it.
Because it's fun.
Well, I can't do it anymore, so I'm going to do it with swords. You know.
The thing is, you said something great here. This is something I try. This is my approach at the moment to the people, to teach them not only to be respectful, but how to fight the ego. Because the rituals of respect and so on, with salute and everything, we have that in manuals. We see that in manuals when they're doing salute and when they're giving advice. I mean, some fencing masters even give instructions how to behave, how to be respectful and everything, and how to be not a cheater or a dirty fighter, and how to survive the thing, but still also keeping the right attitude. So I not only won the fight, but I won it the right way. And what we don't have is how, I mean, sometimes we have that, we have some quotes, but there we have a modern approach about the ego we can use in our HEMA training and martial arts training in general. And my approach at the moment is to say, okay, first of all, don't take yourself and everything too serious. Because in the end, we all die. In the end, we all die. It's nothing important about us. We are just dust in the wind. We are not important. We are important to some people, to very few people. We are important to our parents, our partner, our children, to close friends. But in general, for the universe, we are not important. No. The whale down in the sea doesn't care if I die or not. I mean, I care more about the whales than they do about me, right? Because I love them. They are animals. We need to protect them. But the whale does not care about me. And it's okay. This is a way of things. So don't take yourself too serious. Don't take anything too serious. Of course, it doesn't mean that you have to joke about everything, but keep it on the fun side of life. Keep it on the fun. Enjoy it. Enjoy what you do, even if it is a hard lesson. Even if it is a hard lesson, enjoy what you do. And of course, I still have to learn a lot because sometimes I have a temper. I'll be honest. If something does not go the way I planned, that I can snap. I can really get angry. But this is my approach at the moment to tell the people it's just pain. it's just pain. If it's nothing permanent, then it's just pain. You will survive it. It's just, you know, a purple spot. Yeah. Don't let your ego overwhelm you, because yeah.
I mean, everything's in a state of change and flux, isn't it? I mean, you know, and I think once you understand the impermanence of nature, then it puts things into perspective. You're not going to be here forever, you know.
No.
Don't hurt those around you, you know. Put that ego down for a bit, and just don't, as you said, Heiko, don't take things too seriously. I think I say to my guys, we train properly, we train hard, but we don't take ourselves too serious, you know. The training is serious, but we don't take ourselves serious.
Right. That's the thing. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think that's a point. I think this is a good point at which we've been on an hour. I think this is a good point at which to wrap things up. Finished on that poignant note about the impermanence of life, which I think is an important point, actually. You know, not taking yourself too seriously. Would you like to come on again?
Absolutely.
I'd like to talk about dirks and targes. You know, we've talked about a couple of swords. We've looked at the small sword, and we've looked at the Angelo broadsword, and we've talked about HEMA and character building. I know you've done a lot of stuff on fighting with dirks, and small edged weapons are something that are quite close to my heart. Not literally, because I disarm them, but you know, they're quite. I'm very interested in close range weapons. So if we could have another conversation at some point when it's convenient for you, and we can talk about the role of the dirk in training, close weapons, cudgels, you know, there's a lot, skendo, the taj, you know, the lockhaber axe even, you know, the whole range of weapons that the Catalan society work with. That'd be great. How about that? You happy to do that, Heiko?
Absolutely, because I think it's known for good reasons that I like to talk about weapons.
That's good. You're in good company. So let's do that. So we'll sort out a date, and obviously I'll get back to everybody and let them know when the third part is coming up. So just once again, Heiko, I'd just like to say thanks so much for giving up your time, mate. It's entertaining, it's educational. We had a little bit of a glitch with the sound, but that's sorted now. And I look forward to seeing you in part 3.
I'm looking forward to it as well.
Rocky, the sequel. We'll have part 6. So I just like to say thanks very much, Heiko.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.